name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The Struggle is shown at over 30 cable stations from Maine to New York City and points west. A Syrian friend steered us to a very impressive Syrian protest page on Facebook. I think it's pronounced Da'ali. Here's a video from that page. A bleeding picture of a Mondrian painting suggests the reality in Syria. If it's not happening in your country, that doesn't mean it's not happening. Activists are using this hashtag, #IdlibOnFire, to draw attention to the daily Russian and Assadist atrocities. Here's a photo of a solidarity event in Indiana. You probably heard about the hundreds of people killed in Iraq protesting corruption. On December 11th, 2 young men were apparently kidnapped by police in Iraq as they tried to bring tents to Tahrir Square in Baghdad, where protesters are encamped. The 2 men are Salman Kirala al-Mansouri and Omar Khadhem al-Amri. They're part of a group working on environmental issues called Save the Tigris, referring to the river. More information at savethetigris.org or at thestruggle.org. The attempt by Khanna and Bernie Sanders to get Congress to end the Yemen war by amending the National Defense Authorization Act has failed. Democratic leaders join Republicans in rejecting the effort. So despite tens of thousands of deaths in Yemen and the butchery of Khashoggi and the murders in Pensacola by a Saudi extremist air trainee, the Saudi kingdom went unpunished in any way. More about this at saudius.org. This is video of a 14-year-old child who was swept up by Israeli soldiers and paraded blindfolded through a neighborhood as Israeli soldiers threw sound grenades and tear gas as they walked down the street. The Israeli website B'Tselem filled in the story. They grabbed him, terrorized him, rode around blindfolded in a jeep, then paraded him through a street, demanded to know who was throwing stones, and in the end just let him go far from his home. From the YouTube channel Mondoweiss, a Palestinian explains how he was shot and beaten for the entertainment of Israeli soldiers. It took place in May 2018, but he kept his silence for over a year.
هلا بالنسبة للفيديو اللي انتشر هم بيطلقوا النار علي، هذا أشعر بالنية من الإهانة والوجع اللي أنا دقته من الجنود. لو صار يحكي لي انت وين رايح، وصاروا يصيحوا وكلام انا مش فاهمه يعني بالعبري. صار يحكي لي سكين مش سكين، صرت حاسس انه يعني راح يطخني ويرمي فوقي السكين. ضربوني على رجلي، على راسي، على ظهري، في البرودة، في ايدهم، نزلوني على الارض، يعني حطوني على الارض، راسي على الارض، واحد يدعس هون، جندي يدعس هون وجندي يدعس هون. هم كانوا يضربوني ال6 جنود، وطول الوقت ماسكين التلفون، البليفون الخاص فيهم وبيصوروا. طبعا طول الوقت هم واضح 100% انهم بيضحكوا وبتسلوا علي. حتى يعني في فترة الضرب ال3 ساعات طول الوقت يعني كل جندي يجي يمسك البليفون شوية، يتناوبوا على الضرب يعني. أشهر السلاح بزيادة ورفعوا علي الجندي، دغري لفيت ورفعت ايدي من غير ما يطلبوا مني. رفعت ايدي انا من غير ما يطلبوا مني، بس عشان يعرفوا انه انا بديش اعمل ولا اشي يعني، رغم انه كنت يعني 3 ساعات واكثر من 3 ساعات هم بضربوني، وانا يعني خلص بس بدي اروح. لما اطلقوا الرصاصة علي يعني انا ارتميت على الارض، فكرت حالي استشهدت، كنت مغمض عيني، متخدر مش قادر احرك ولا اشي بجسمي يعني. كنت بس يعني بفكر اني يعني بتشاهد، وخلص فكرت حالي اني استشهدت.
Trump signed a new executive order on anti-Semitism. It's full of legalese, but the main problem is that it makes government officials pay attention to a certain group's definition of anti-Semitism and its so-called contemporary examples. Now, some parts of it are fine, like declaring anti-Semitic those who blame all Jews for Israel's actions. But it also supposedly is anti-Semitic to claim that the State of Israel is a racist endeavor. Israel is racist in 100 ways. Just last year it made a basic law that said that Israel was for Jews only. But if you mention that, like I just did, you're somehow anti-Semitic. It's also supposedly anti-Semitic to make comparisons of Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. That would have doomed the late Israel Prize winner Yehoshua Leibowitz, who coined the term Judeo-Nazis. Forget the quibbles about wording. The whole effect of this executive order will be to put federal pressure on college administrators to harass college students and professors who stand up for Palestinian rights. And the day after Trump signed the order, a Virginia congressman demanded an investigation of Georgetown College and its Arab Studies Center because of its alleged support for BDS. More about that at mondoweiss.net. A terrific article in the New York Times Online showing with infrared photography methane leaks that are normally invisible. To read the article, Google "Vast Invisible Climate Menace." You recall the great civil disobedience action about climate at the Harvard-Yale game, as those who had to come to court to answer their citation, outside there was a demonstration in solidarity.
We are students from Harvard and Yale.
Discloses and divests from fossil fuels in Puerto Rico.
Disclose and divest from fossil fuels in Puerto Rico.
Or nobody wins.
Or nobody wins.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Divestment.
And when do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Divestment.
And when do we want it?
Now.
Cancel the debt.
Cancel the debt. Cancel the debt. Cancel the debt. Cancel the debt. Cancel the debt.
Thank you guys, everybody, for coming out this morning. It's been a crazy couple of weeks since the Harvard-Yale game. People have come out to support us, from Elizabeth Warren and strangers messaging our Facebook page from foreign countries, all the way to alumni and faculty at Yale. And now we're here to give support to the people who got arrested, to give this movement the power and visibility that's going to make sure that we will win.
Yeah!
Yeah! We will continue to support communities struggling against all injustice in which Yale is complicit, including the systematic inequality, poverty, displacement, and criminalization here in New Haven.
Yeah!
The action that we're here to celebrate today has marked a turning point for our movement, which is part of a global movement of divestment that's actively changing the way business as usual operates. What we didn't know when we sat on the field at the Harvard-Yale game was how broad and diverse the support for our mission actually is. And the momentum does not stop here. On the 14th of December, the Yale Corporation is meeting, and our movement is definitely going to be on the agenda. So this is the moment where we need to put pressure on Harvard and Yale and the real decision makers, and let them know that inaction is not an option, exploitation of Puerto Rican debt is not an option, investment in destructive forms of energy is not an option. No more coal!
No more oil.
Keep your carbon in the soil!
No more coal. No more oil. Keep your carbon in the soil.
I know you guys could be much louder than that. You guys are doing it like you're talking to someone that's been super nice and have been giving you everything that you've been asking for and the planet deserves. So one more time, using your diaphragm. No more coal!
No more oil. Keep your carbon in the soil. No more coal. No more oil. Keep your carbon in the soil. No more coal. No more oil. Keep your carbon in the soil.
As we speak, another one of those collective acts is happening right now on Harvard's campus. As some of you may have heard, the Harvard Graduate Student Union is currently on strike.
Yeah!
Fighting for fair wages, for health care, for protections from sexual harassment. Just last week, also at Harvard, Professor Lorgia Garcia Pena, the only Latina tenure-track professor at Harvard, was denied tenure.
The mayor of New Haven actually asked for no punishment for these people. They were not given any fine or jail, but required to do 5 hours of community service. They had done an enormous community service. Later that day, hundreds of young people and others came out in Hartford, Connecticut for another climate strike.
Fossil fuels have got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fossil fuels have got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fossil fuels have got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fossil fuels have got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fossil fuels have got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fossil fuels have got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fossil fuels have got to go, hey, hey, ho, ho. Fossil fuels have got to go,
30-degree weather to talk about global warming, you're gonna be like, yeah, damn right I did. Because weather and climate are not the same thing. No. So I'm actually gonna bring Mitch back up, and he's gonna talk about the Sunrise Movement and the Green New Deal. You're gonna hear all about that. It's great to see you guys here. Mitch, he's a co-director of the Sunrise Movement.
The Sunrise Movement is something special in particular. Sen and I have been with this movement for about a year now, a little bit more than that. I myself joined after, as part of the Governor's Transition Committee on Energy Policy and Climate Change, and I realized just not enough's being done. So Sunrise itself, as a national movement, started just a few years back, out of a handful of college students in their dorms, their res halls, some of which came from right here in Connecticut, at Wesleyan University. Anybody here from Wesleyan? Let's hear it! Woo! Now, today alone, millions of people are speaking in unison, demanding action to fight the climate crisis, the greatest threat humanity has ever faced. But it's taken a lot of work to get here. It has. Sunrise first got its first big break when pushing the Green New Deal resolution alongside Senator Markey and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. A resolution that calls for the creation of millions of good, clean jobs and a way to beat climate change. Now, we've been building an army of young people to make climate change an urgent priority across America. I think we're doing a pretty damn good job so far. Look at you guys here today. And the corruption of fossil fuel executives in our politics, and elect leaders that stand up for the health and well-being of all people. We are built by ordinary people like all of you that care about our collective future. We are people that are scared about what the climate crisis means for our people and the places we love. We're gathering in classrooms, living rooms, and halls of worship across our country. And we all have a role to play in this movement, in this moment. And if we can successfully unite millions, we can turn this into real political power and reclaim our democracy. Now, we try not to look left or to the right, but rather try and look forward to change this country and the world, sure as the sun rises each morning. In the last year alone, Sunrise has grown from just 30 hubs to over 300 operating chapters within the United States. And I like to think we're just getting started. Now, we fought hard in the midterms, and we're currently making our country feel the urgency of the crisis. And in 2020, we're going to bring it home by electing a climate candidate that will address climate change. Now, we're building a people's alignment, joining with movements and groups to build a shared vision of government that fights for dignity and justice for all. In Sunrise, Connecticut, we've helped found a broad grassroots coalition of 93 separate organizations to bring about change here in our state. A state that has its roots in innovation. Now I think it's time to spark that once again. We've been pushing for expanded energy efficiency programs for our people, the discontinuation of fossil fuel infrastructure like Killingly, and have met with our elected officials to bring about some real change in our state. On September 20th, I'm sure some of you guys were here, we had our first major strike and brought almost 2,000 people to Hartford. A record for environmental action in Connecticut. And now it comes down to this. Our air, our water, and our home are threatened. The solutions are here and ready to be utilized. But a greedy few are driving us towards catastrophe.
My name is Sylvia Borla, and I am a 9-year-old climate activist in the making. Right now, global climate change is affecting our entire planet. It's harming wildlife and people, and it's the world's poorest people who are bearing the brunt of the crisis. In the U.S., we contribute more than our share to the problem. The U.S. has 5% of the world's population, but consumes 30% of the world's resources and creates 30% of the world's waste.
We have had enough of fossil fuels. We have no interest in killing Lee, when instead we could simply draw down the demand for electricity by reducing our dependency in our waste right now in our homes and buildings all across Connecticut.
And I'm going to bring Senna back up. She's 15 years old, is a freshman at UConn, and she's also, as you've met before, the co-director of the Sunrise Movement, and she's going to talk to you about the Connecticut Climate Emergency Resolution, follow-up to the strike on the 20th, and more legislative action, which is really important. Senna? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Senna Wazer, and like Terry said, I am a 15-year-old climate activist and student at UConn. I was one of the main organizers for this event, and right now I want to tell you why I helped plan a climate strike the Friday before my finals start. On September 20th, 1,500 people gathered on these steps to ask for immediate and drastic climate action. At the end of the strike, we went inside and delivered a resolution to the governor's office, outlining steps that we need to take to combat climate change and requesting a meeting with the governor. We were told to contact the governor's scheduler. We reached out to the governor again and again, and yet we have gotten no response. And it is time to show the governor that climate change, that youth voices can no longer be ignored. So what are we going to do about this? Well, first of all, we are going to keep coming back. We are not leaving until we see climate action at the scale of the crisis we are facing. And second of all, we are going to apply pressure to the governor to not only demand a meeting with him, but to also ask for a youth seat on the Governor's Council for Climate Change, or the GC3 Council. And the reason that we are demanding a youth seat on the GC3 Council is because over the past few months, the governor's actions continue to be an inadequate response to the crisis we face. He is not protecting our future in the way that it needs to be protected. And youth have clarity to see how far adults have strayed from sensible policies, which is why we need a seat at the table. And we are also going to work with legislatures, because this year we will mobilize youth from all over Connecticut to go to the Capitol and pressure our legislatures for climate action. Specifically, we will be asking for 3 things. 1, no new fossil fuel expansion. We cannot keep building natural gas power plants when we need to instead be moving away from fossil fuels. 2, expanded energy efficiency and renewable energy. This is the future. And 3, ensured climate education for all public school children, because every child deserves to know what is happening to their future. We do have some political leaders who stand up for us, such as the ones behind me here today. But right now, I have a message to the political leaders who congratulate us for being brave and speaking up, but then continue to sit by and do nothing. I am speaking to the political leaders who either do nothing or take such small actions that it accomplishes nothing. And I am speaking to the political leaders who continue to deny that climate change is even a thing. And now I'm asking them, what more do you need to see before you understand that climate change is urgent? How many more people have to die? How many more communities have to be destroyed? How many more childhoods have to be wrecked? What don't you understand? We present the science to you again and again, and yet nothing changes. We explain the urgency. We tell you our personal stories, and nothing changes. And that leads me to only one conclusion. You are cowards. You are scared of the necessary. You throw away your children's future today so you can make a little more money. I spend every day panicking about climate change, doing whatever I can to help combat it. But yet in your position of power, you continue to sit by and do nothing. But we're not waiting any longer. We're not going to let you sit by without repercussions. Because now we call, stand up or step aside. We will not accept empty promises or blatant lies. We call, stand up or step aside. We will not accept meaningless actions or denial. Because we call, stand up or step aside. We will not take anything but action at the scale of the crisis we are facing. We call, stand up or step aside. Thank you.
How do we?
Yeah. Go on. Yes, make me famous.
That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.